So today I'm joined by a true wrestling legend. He is probably most recognized from his time in the WWF, former tag team and intercontinental champion, one half of the Rougeau brothers, as well as the Quebecers, Jacques Rougeau. Jacques, welcome.
And the Mountie. Hey,
And
how's it going?
And the Mountie. You always get your man.
Yeah, can't forget the Mountie.
So I want to open things up by talking about your latest wrestling related project. It's called Wrestling Academy. It's a reality-based wrestling contest where 4 winners will be voted on by viewers, each receiving $5,000 plus an opportunity to train at AEW star QT Marshall's Nightmare Factory. So Jacques, can you tell me a little about how this all came together? What was the motivation behind starting this up?
You know, that's a great question. I guess we got to go with the passion I have for wrestling. I've always had passion for wrestling. I've had, and before the COVID there, I had a wrestling school and I had my own territory for like 20 years. And finally, one day out of the blues there, my sons, my 3 sons that were wrestling, they're the 4th generation of the Rougeau family. They made me understand that wrestling was my dream. It wasn't their dream. So that kind of put me in a situation where I had to respect that. And so for me, it was like we had 75 years of wrestling in the Rougeau family that was coming to an end. So I closed my wrestling school down and I just got away from the wrestling business while COVID was there. And then I just, for 2 years, I just kind of lost my identity. I just didn't know what to do. I've been into wrestling since I was 4 years old, you know, and I'm 62 now. So it's like a big part of me was missing. So my girlfriend and I, we have a big show in Montreal for singers for about 8-9 years now. It's called the Star Academy. It's for singers, and they have that's where we stole the idea. It's just that they have people singing across the province, and they eliminate them every week by voting. And so I decided, I looked at my girlfriend, I said, why don't we do that? But instead of just doing it for the province of Quebec, why don't we do it for Canada, the whole 10 provinces? And so that's where the idea came from. And it's been really going good since then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wonderful. Can you tell me a little about some of the work that went into putting this thing together?
Oh my God. You know, I can't say I could call it work, because when you're doing your passion, you could do up to 8 hours a day of just putting videos together, talking to the talent, and just keeping them posted on how things are advancing, and then going to sell your own tickets for the shows to make sure that the shows are full and they're sold out, and then getting the camera crew together, and getting the insurance for the show, and there's so much things that you have to put together when you organize something like this. And to be honest with you, I know in a lot of businesses like that, but in wrestling more, I guess it's I could almost call it a daycare. You know, it's like a bunch of kids that I have under my wing here. You know, they have sometimes questions that are so easy to answer, but they'll still write you and ask you the questions, and you got to be there to answer them. And so it's like it's been babysitting for about 10 months now. And to be honest with you, but it's fun. I got to know the talent. And so I started asking everybody to start sending a 30-second video of their best wrestling abilities, and cut me a last 10-second promo of just, I wanted to feel them out to see how good they were on the microphone, and all that. And then I started receiving some videos, and it's been such a great adventure, because I've learned to meet a lot of guys, you know, from BC, from Vancouver, I'm thinking of Chris Dillon from Nova Scotia. I'm thinking of Will Webster. I'm thinking of my God, there's a Jesse V from Ontario, of Chad Daniels from Winnipeg. I'm thinking of, and we got so much talent in Quebec here. Quebec is full of talent. So out of the 40 wrestlers and the female and male that we recruited, there's 21 that came out of Quebec. So it was like, and I'm thinking of Jeremy Prophet, and thinking of, he's a great asset to the business. So it's been a great adventure to learn to know these talents. And then we had our first show on the 15th of May, and it was a great adventure there too, because it was so exciting to have the 3 judges by the ring there, judging at 40%, you know, of the competition. But then 60% of the competition was all podcasts I did around the world for the last 10 months, and I included people to start coming to vote on our website. And so it's been really fun. I even had a girl from Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu up in Quebec here that she was not voted by the coaches, by the judges, but she was voted by the fans. So she passed anyway. So it was like it became an adventure where, wow, the fans do make a difference, and so it's been a tremendous adventure, and I've got to learn a lot about the other side of wrestling too, because me being a wrestler all my life, always being on time and being a professional of what I was doing, and it was so important that I had a good image and all that. Well, believe it or not, I met a lot of haters. I met a lot of people that weren't so professional that joined the ride for the publicity for that 8-9 months, and then 2 weeks before the show or 2 days before the show, they pulled out. So it was like, wow, they have no idea of the organization that you put into this and the time we put in. My girlfriend, my God, she deserves an Oscar just for all the time that she put in this thing, with me. And all the websites, she's taking care of the website, of the publicity on the Twitter and Facebook and all the social media. She's doing so much. So it's a lot of work. But like I was saying, when you're living your passion, and I was back into wrestling, I was having fun. And the 15th of May, we had such a great show, a great time.
Right.
We made a bunch of mistakes in the production show and the putting the show together, because it's almost like a pilot year this year, and you take a project like that when you're a wrestler for 45 years and then you become a producer, it's a complete different ballgame. You're starting at zero. And then the second show we had on the 26th of June, not long ago, which you could go see on the website, which is wrestling-academy.ca. If you have a chance to put on the bottom there the link, or in French, it's lutteacademy.ca. They could go see the last show we had, the 26th of June, which is really fun. You'll see the talent from all over. And now on the 14th of August coming up, it's really becomes fun now, because we have the winners of the 15th of May, and we have the winners of the 26th of June. So now they're coming on the 14th of August, and we picked the better wrestlers, the one that were voted in and everything. And there's still 1 week to vote for the 26th of June. For those who want to go, they could go vote, and for the wrestlers. But you'll see this last show if you go see on the website. It's amazing, the last match. Chris Dillon against Jesse V.
Right.
Holy mackerel! Both of these guys. It's going to be so hard for me to eliminate one, because they both deserve to be seen by QT Marshall, which is going to be there on the 28th of August. So the 14th of August we have the semifinals, and then 2 weeks later, QT Marshall's coming from the United States. He's coming here to be a guest judge, and then he's going to grab 4 of my best talent, 1 female and 3 men, and he's going to bring them to the United States with them. For 3 months. That's an amazing prize, for 4 Canadian wrestlers.
Sure.
So we're so excited of all this project.
Can you tell me a little about how the voting process works? Like how are people eliminated exactly? Like what kind of criteria you look for?
Well, like I said, there was 40% of the vote that goes by the judges. So we have a panel and we have cards, and we vote the judges to see who we judge it on: the charisma, on the wrestling ability, on the interview on the mic, and they have to do all that. When you'll see, if you go on the website, you'll see one show, the show the 26th. You'll see how it works, and then you get 60% of the votes by the people. But if the votes are close with the people, then the judges are the one that balance the difference.
Right.
But like I said, in one case, almost the 3 judges voted for one girl, but one girl went all out, and she called all her friends and all her family, and she had them vote for her, and she made the total difference of the 40% to the 60%, and she passed. So people could go on the website and they vote, and it costs $1.50 to vote. And that helps for the logistic of this big project, this Canadian project. But also there's 25 cents that goes to Care Montreal Care for the homeless. So I associated with a good foundation that chose me as a spokesman in Canada for them this year for the homeless. So we're including them in there. So you're doing a good deed at the same time. So it's $1.50 Canadian. So I don't know what the difference in money and currency and difference around the world, but it's about $1.50. And 25 cents goes to Care Montreal. So if you have I'm looking at Chris Dillon and Chad Daniels. I'm coming back to the main event on the show that you go see on my website right now. Right. One has 96 votes and the other one has 91 votes. So it's going to be really up to the judges by now, because they're so close with their voting and the family. But it makes it so interesting to know that the fans could make a difference. Like, in other words, if the fans vote for someone, and by the way, I must say, you don't judge by the winner or the loser of the match. That doesn't count. We flip it. We tossed a coin in the dressing room to see who's going to win and who's going to lose. That has no importance. The importance is to have the ability and because to have a good Batman, you need a good Joker. So we look at on the content and the moves and so all this to say, I'm really excited about this because we're going on the 14th of like I said, the 14th of August. We're going into now. I'm starting to see a lot of how can I say that? The competition is flaring up now. It's like, I have some guys calling me, like I had a guy just before I came on the air now, I had a guy text me, Will Webster from Calgary. He says, Jacques, can I wrestle against this guy that was on the last show? Now they're starting to pick the guys they want to wrestle against. It's like, because they have an idea that maybe they could look better or they have a chance of passing because, it's $5,000 each,
Right.
And it's a lot of money, plus the 3 months at QT Marshall. And I always said to myself, the greatest thing about this competition is that there's two things when I was young that made me become a wrestler and that would make it happen for someone to become a wrestler is being at the right place at the right time and knowing the right people, and by being 3 months in Atlanta, Georgia, at the Nightmare Factory, where you have guys like Jake the Snake that are helping and a bunch of guys that go hang around there. And now that Cody Rhodes has switched to WWE, so you have two big federations, AEW and WWE, that are recruiting from that school. So if you spend 3 months there and you have all these celebrities and these big stars that are on TV right now and they're famous, and they go in there day by day, the ones that are based in Atlanta, Georgia, they go in and they walk in and they see you and the first week it's like, hey, how you doing? And then after 1 month, it's like, hey, how you doing, man? And then after 2 months, it's, hey, you want to come in the boat with us? We're coming. And then you become friends. And then it's like, so there's a relationship that builds there. So what a great opportunity for these wrestlers, these Canadian wrestlers who have a hard time getting working visas and working papers to go to the United States, which I'm not going to provide, but I will put a foot in the door for them. So once they get there, if one of the federations like a talent that they really like, then they could go ahead and get the papers for them. So it's really fun to see the change of attitude also in the talent that are now starting really to look like. I ask him for a promo. It's like, yes, sir. And, it's like right away. And it's like, I ask him to do a FaceTime. Like I'm doing a FaceTime tomorrow night with the three girls that are meeting each other in the next show. Right. And all three of them, yes, Jacques, yes, Jacques. It's like, yeah, I'm looking forward to get your input. And so they're all excited. And we're going to flip the coin on FaceTime, all three of us, because they're all around Canada. So not going to be here. But it's becoming really an exciting project. And I can't wait for after the 14th, we're really going to get down to the nitty gritty to have 8 last contenders, right, and 2 women and 6 men, which are going to compete for the place of the 4, with QT Marshall sitting beside me doing the voiceovers during the show. And just me looking at QT Marshall and saying, well, what do you think, QT? Like, who do you choose? Like, who do you want to bring with you? It's going to be so exciting.
Yeah. So you said that QT is making the final decision then for the
yeah, for sure. It's just, it's just cool. And
right.
He's the one that has all the contacts, and I don't have any contacts with the federations anymore. I haven't watched wrestling in 30 years. I haven't watched a show. I don't even know the talents, and I don't know none of the talent that are there. My deal was with the Nightmare Factory, getting them a deal in. But starting from there, I think there's not a better guy than the owner of the Nightmare Factory, who knows the talent, who's involved in the AEW context. I think he's the operator of special effects or something. He does something in AEW. Okay. So plus he wrestles for them. So I think that there's no better guy placed to see what kind of wrestling also that they're demanding, because since I haven't watched wrestling in 30 years, it's changed. In my time, it was like less is more. We'd do less moves, but we'd have more charisma, I think, or more. We'd spend more time in selling one move than today. I think today it's like 1,000 moves, and the guy who gives a drop kick, he's the guy who receives the drop kick today. He's up before the guy who gave the drop kick. So it's like for me it makes no sense. Right. But that's the way wrestling is today, I think. So I haven't watched it, but I know that QT Marshall, he's going to look at the talent, and he's also going to be able to tell me, like, Jacques, I think we got a diamond in the rough with that guy, or I think that that's a good charcoal, a piece of charcoal that we could turn into some gold there. And so I think he'll be in a better position than me. I'm just going to go ahead and give my expertise on being putting myself in the place which I've been doing from the start. Is like, I'm not if you go see the two first shows, you'll see my commentating is awful. It's like I don't have the names of the wrestling moves or nothing. Me, it's more like, wow, like, oh, what a move. And it's like, so I'm looking at more like a Mr. Nobody just going to watch a wrestling match and being entertained.
Right.
So that's what I'm going to bring to the show. Did I buy what I see? Did I like what I see? Was I entertained? Was would I watch, if I saw this on TV, would I stay tuned? Or would I flip the channel? So that's where I would come in more like, but I think that QT Marshall is going to come in more like with more the details and more like what he could do with them, because he has a wrestling school. So he like me, I had a wrestling school for 20 years. So he knows that sometimes you have talent that you could look at them and you just have a feeling for them. Like, I can't, there's so many names I can name to you, but I'm thinking of a guy like Jeremy Prophet, who,
right. Yeah.
for me, I know he's going to the finals because he's how do you say that? He's the whole package, the total package. He talks like a son of a gun. Like, he's got a great speech. He looks fantastic and he wrestles fantastic, so the only thing now left there, which I certainly didn't have a problem with, was his attitude. So he had got a great attitude. Now, if he keeps the attitude he has now, and he keeps doing what he keeps doing, he's owner of a podcast himself, so he has a lot of experience, and he's never boring.
Right.
A little conceited, but never boring, and so he's very, very sure of himself. So you have a couple of guys like that I'm thinking of some other guys that but he's the one really in his own class as far as I'm concerned. But the other talent that I have is like they're great in the ring or great on the mic or great in the wrestling ability, but there's very few that have the total package. So now QT Marshall is going to have to look at that and say, okay, he's got this, but he's lacking a little bit of there, but I think I could help him. Plus, he's going to spend the whole day with them at the show, because he's going to arrive like at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're filming at 7 o'clock at night. So he's going to have time, and I'm sure the boys and the girls will be around him to go introduce themselves, and just to try to get to know him, and to be noticed by them. So he'll have time to just by, you never have a second chance to make a first impression. And so that first impression when QT's there during the day, when the buffet is there and when they're going over the match and stuff, QT's going to make an impression. I mean, they're going to make an impression on QT. And so that'll be very important too, because the first contact you have, is the most important. And I'm sure that everybody will be walking on the tiptoes, and be very careful of how it's going to happen.
For sure. Excellent stuff. And we're definitely looking forward to that show on the 14th of August. And I'll of course post the link to the Facebook group of our
thank you very much,
listeners. So I just wanted to ask you a little now about some of your other projects. I know that you've been heavily involved as well in several anti-bullying campaigns throughout the years. In fact, I saw the reason I reached out, I saw that you were featured in a CTV news story not too long ago, maybe a couple months ago. How did you get involved with that?
Well, it was pretty simple. I think the whole world of wrestling knows that. I mean, it's like I've been bullied. I got bullied by the British Bulldog, and I got beat up by him in the dressing room, and then had to stand up for myself, and that changed my life. And when I came out of the WWF, I had I don't know if it's the right word, is a big chip on my shoulders, or just a pain that I was carrying inside of me, that I felt like every time I'd see some bullying going around, it was like I'd get really upset. Like, I'd always want to come and defend to help the people that were being bullied, because, I realized that because when I got bullied, before I did my comeback, it was like I was so scared, and I was so sad, and I had so little self-esteem of myself. And it was like, I really understood the people who just disappeared one day and just decided they didn't want to continue, because I was in that mood there where I don't know if how close I was to that, but I was very like dark. It was a dark time
Mhm.
where you'd look up to people and feel embarrassed. It's hard to explain when you get beat up like that or you get bullied. And so I started doing conferences in schools, and one guy just asked me one day to do a conference on just motivating kids, and that was like 25 years ago, and out of my conference, out of nowhere, I just went into bullying. I just started talking about bullying because it was part of the way I felt, and I'm an open heart kind of guy. So it was like I put my heart on the table when I speak in a conference, and next thing you know, one school told the other school, and then the other school told the other school, and next thing you know, I was doing like 20 conferences a year for about 20 years, and and just explaining to the kids that you could beat bullying without using violence. There's ways by working together, by talking, by bringing it out, and the most difficult thing in that is to bring it to somebody. Your problem is people get closed up on it. They don't express themselves, and then they crack. And it's like, and also very, very hard to make that step to say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and expose this bully, and then I got to live with the consequence. He's probably going to beat me up more, or he's probably going to kill me, or he's probably going to hurt me more. Or so you have this scared. I don't know how to say this.
Right.
You're afraid, and
Mhm.
this fear that's a hard step to take. But then I realized after that when you take the step, and then it changes everything. Your life changes. I never would have become Intercontinental Champion. I never would have become 3 times WWF Champion. I never would have beat Hulk Hogan. I never would have. There's so many things I wouldn't have done in life if I wouldn't have stepped up. So it's like the most important thing is to tell someone, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your in school, tell the principal, and to make that step is the hardest step of them all. But once you made that step and it's out in the open, you're safe. And that's what I try to tell the kids is once you do it, you're safe because everybody knows it now. So
Right.
now, and once everybody knows it, it's like you're protected. You don't even know it, but you're protected. You did the hardest thing is to come out and say something about. That's the hardest thing.
So do you think that the business has changed a little bit in that regard, like as far as when you were coming up?
Well, to be honest with you, like I said, I haven't followed the business in 30 years. I don't know if they still have fights in the dressing room. I don't know if they still have ribs played in the dressing room. I don't know if they still have, but to be honest with you, I'm pretty sure that it's still there because it's not only there in wrestling, it's there in ordinary jobs. It's there everywhere in life. Bullies are everywhere. And it's like, so it's not only in wrestling, it's just that the testosterone in my days, it was very high in wrestling because they had the steroids, and they had the drinking, the pills, and they had the macho guys. They had the guys who were really tough that were in the business, so they wanted to prove and show that they were the toughest. So there was a lot of attitude. But I think today, I think it would be probably a lot less because it's more like movies. It's more like scripted. It's more like I think the wrestling is different from what I've heard of. But it's always going to exist. There's always, when you talk about big salaries like that, big money like that, there's always going to be backstabbing. There's always going to be, oh, don't worry, my friend, I'll take care of you. And when you turn around, he's got a knife in his hand. It's like, life is like that, unfortunately, and it's too bad. And I thank the Lord every day of my life when this comes to my mind that I've been one of the lucky guys in life. I'm not a rich guy in life, financially, but
Mhm.
Jesus Christ, I got the greatest quality on the earth is when I see someone that's happy or that I see someone that makes it in life, I'm happy for them, and so that for me is like I was blessed with that gift. So for me, jealousy was never a problem or trying to stop somebody from passing in front of me or making it better than me, or power to them if they make it better than me. I'll try to catch up to them if I can, but I think that bullying is going to be part of. I don't know how they. I know that I made a difference. I did make a difference because the day that I stood up to myself, things after that changed. It was hard because I had a couple of guys that wanted to try me after that, you know, a couple of really tough guys. But at the same time, I did the same thing after that. I just looked at them in the face and stood up to them like, well, what are you going to do about it? Like, you know, just what are you going to do about it? Like, if you're going to beat me up, beat me up. I'm not going to kiss your ass anyway, you know, or I'm not going to. I know now for a fact that you're going to lose no matter what. It's a lose-lose situation. So it's like so once you've passed that and you learn that, but I know that I made a big difference in a lot of people's life, especially I had some guys in the business, like a lot of guys that I'm not going to mention their names, that were with me, superstars that came up to me after and said, Jacques, man, you did what I wanted to do all these years, man. I just I felt the relief in their eyes. Like now there was no more cutting their pants, and there was no more putting pills in their drinks, and then putting. There was a lot of bad stuff going on. So I know, and I know in the schools, I had so many letters from parents that wrote to me and talked to me after that. I made a difference in their child's life. You know, that gave them self-esteem and gave them encouragement, put them on the right track, and now that they're taking the bus now and they're not afraid anymore. And I had so many things brought to me. So that's a good feeling. But unfortunately, I'll have to say that the bullying, I think, is going to be there. I hope that contrary to Vince McMahon, what he did in our days, he thought it was funny. I hope that the promoters today think that it's not funny and they realize how damaging that it could be.
Mhm.